Hey guys, so I'm filming this video because I wanted to share a little bit about my perspective right after the breakup, things that I went through emotionally, perspectives that I had to teach myself, kind of how I trained my mind to handle the situation. And I'm going to reference a note that I wrote a little bit more actively in the situation. I think, when I was in the midst of all these feelings, it was about a week after the incident had happened, and I still wanted to make sure that I was handling the situation in with the same intention that I, had already trained my mind to be in the perspective of seeking the Lord, seeking His favor, doing things the way that He would, despite, kind of worldly persuasions. So, as someone that is seeking to break generational curses in my family, it can be really hard to go against the grain of, your family, the way that they've been taught, and the things that you've been taught, the way that the world just kind of works, because the world is not necessarily built to love like Jesus, right? The world is really more like Satan than it is like Jesus, and that's unfortunate, but that's something that I'm working on myself to change, right? Just for myself, because that's all I can control. So in those practices, the Lord requires, He does not suggest, He requires that we forgive. He requires that we do not seek vengeance. He requires that you pray for your enemies, those that have wronged you. And while I was going through the situation with Charles, a lot of people, out of their natural tongue, they would tell me, you don't have to forgive so quickly. You can be angry. And while they are right, you can feel your feelings and, have your emotions, and you should. I knew that anger was the opposite of forgiveness for me. And I really care about not being an angry person, because anger leads to resentment, anger leads to bitterness, anger leads to all of these things that I don't want to embody, things that don't really align with who I want to be, and my path in seeking the Lord. So I had a hard time with that noise. That it was a lot of work for me to train my mind against the grain, because every morning I would wake up and I had the choice to be angry or forgive. And it was every day. It was honestly every hour. It was every minute. It was every time I felt my feelings. I was like, I'm so mad, but I don't want to be the person that is angry, because that is going to bring something out of me that would make him right, that would make me know better than him. And I know myself to be different for a lot of reasons. So it was really important for me to exercise forgiveness as soon as possible, right? And I genuinely am very understanding. I can empathize relatively quickly, especially if I know a little bit about you. And in that situation with Charles, I never justified his behaviors, but I understood where a lot of his pain was coming from. And as a person that's made mistakes myself, I really understood how your emotions can get the best of you if you are not actively seeking the Lord consistently and constantly, right? Because I've done wrong things out of emotions, out of recklessness, out of not keeping God at the forefront of my mind, and it's a constant battle. It's a constant effort to make these changes, and to embody these choices. So, knowing that evil perpetuates evil, the only thing that ends violence, pain, corruption, evil spirits, is love, and God is love. And knowing that, it was an easy choice to seek forgiveness, to choose forgiveness. But exercising it is the hard part, right? Every time I was angry and I wanted to be angry and I wanted to seek vengeance, I had to choose to be more like God, right? And, some of the thoughts that I had to speak to myself to stay in this line of thought was reminding myself that when I seek vengeance, I seldomly feel better about it after the fact because I'm only continuing the cycle of pain, even for myself, right? And also, continuing the cycle of pain for the other person. And the only way we heal ourselves and other people is through love, not these continued cycles of vengeance and pain. And similarly to how great teachers teach is by example. So I didn't know what the right thing to do was, but I knew the wrong thing to do was to get back at him, to want him in pain, to want him to feel the pain that I was feeling at his hands. And that is a really hard thing to wrap your head around because that's what the world teaches you, that an eye for an eye, wrong for a wrong, you know? That getting even is how you get back at somebody, is how you feel better. And it's just not true. It's simply not true. And the further we get away from true healing, the more we perpetuate evil in the world. I sat still. And that is the hardest thing to do when your emotions make you want to move. They make you want to do things. They make you want to act. And the hardest thing to do when you feel at unease is stay still. Sorry, my family's really loud. If you know one thing about Filipinos, they are terribly loud. So anyways, in my stillness, I was reminded that if I want to break generational curses, it starts with me. If I want to see a difference in this world, it starts with me. Since I was born, I knew that was my role. I knew that the amount of love that was birthed into me was my change in this world. So knowing that, feeling that, and wanting to embody that more and more each day, it was an easy choice, but hard to practice for sure. But it is my heavenly duty and my divine duty to change the direction of my family, of our lives, so that, we can all prosper in the overflow, that we can know the love of God and live in the abundance that God has designed for us, and live with honor, because those are the things that matter to me, and this change and this mannerism isn't fake. It isn't a facade, and it isn't a waste of time. This is what I believe is right. This is what God told me to do. And living in his obedience is my biggest takeaway from my relationship. That is something I'm not willing to be negotiable or flexible on. Because I knew better. I knew the things that I was doing in my relationship or being with this person wasn't being obedient to God. He told me to do other things, and I wanted what I wanted, and I see where that got me, and I no longer want what I want because it's just pain outside of his obedience, outside of his protection. And I want love. I really want real love in this life. I want real love in this world, and I know, like I said earlier, God is love. And so those are things I'm no longer willing to compromise and sacrifice. And it doesn't make you weak to choose to be peaceful. It doesn't make you weak to choose living like God, because I know a lot of people had different opinions about my choices and how I chose to handle this, and they had a hard time understanding, but it's not for them to understand always. It's for me to be in line with what I've been called to do and what makes my heart feel at peace. And it takes real heart, it takes real character to choose joy when fear and suffrage is easier. And living in the devil's world is a lot easier than living in line with the Lord. So just know that the world may deem you weak. They may say you're weak. They may think you're weak because you chose love, real love, love of God. You chose forgiveness. You chose seeking joy. And those are not things that take weak character. Those things build true, strong, faithful character. And so if you're going through a situation similar, and not similar to my situation, but similar where there is confusion, there is like discord, there is, what is the right word that I'm thinking of? If there's tension, and you know that the higher road is to show love, to give forgiveness, the only person you are here to please on this earth is God. If you know you are choosing God and you are choosing to forgive and choosing to love, just know that you will be blessed. You will reap the fruits that you sow, and living in that abundance is way better than seeking vengeance, than continuing the cycles of pain in this world. You can be the change if you want to be. And it doesn't take hard work. It just takes real work. It takes real choices to choose love, to not want to hurt others that they have hurt you, and to forgive those that have hurt you. It is really hard. It's really hard sometimes, but it is the right choice, and you will see in time that your character is strong, your heart is full of love, and God blesses those who seek His love. I know you can do it. I've done it, and I am no different than you. You guys, we're going to change the world, and it's one act of love at a time. I believe in you.